Good evening. I will call the meeting to order at this time. I'll ask Mayor Pro Tem. He will lead us in the invocation, and afterwards, if you will, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come tonight before the community, Lord, to make decisions to try to make our city the best we can, Father. We pray for the citizens, those that keep us safe, and the children, Lord, in this community. Lord, a special prayer for the kids as they start their college graduation and soon to come high school graduations, and those that are be starting school, Lord. We pray that you'll keep a special hand on those in the community and help them develop themselves to be the best citizens possible. We ask all this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Gentlemen, you have the agenda in front of you. There are a couple of known changes. I asked, I don't think I see Paul Worley. Is Paul Worley here? I don't think he's come in. So that was one of our first items on the agenda, a proclamation for Paul Worley. I will ask that for the moment we move that to the end of the agenda in case he comes in. And then the other known changes is Anita Liverman could not make it again tonight. We had a proclamation for her service on the Appearance Commission. I asked that that be removed from the agenda. And there were a couple of items to be added to the agenda. They have been requested to be added to the consent agenda. And it's the bid award to Carolina Industrial Equipment in the amount of $212,840 for the purchase of the hook and lift truck with the leaf box. And then consideration and a request for approval to appoint a one-time 3-member personnel advisory committee in response to an employee's request for a grievance hearing. That information is listed in the packet that was at your desk this evening, as far as the recommendations for the personnel committee and the information on the bids as well. So, any other requests for changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I will
Make a motion to amend, approve the consent agenda as amended.
to approve the agenda, right? Not
Yeah,
just-
I'm sorry. The agenda is issued.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, our first item this evening is the administering of the oath of office to one of our police officers, Jason Byer.
Thank you for your service.
Okay, our next item is administering the oath of office to Police Sergeant William Thomas Lee. How you doing tonight, sir? How are you guys doing? Good to see you. Daddy? All right, good to tell. Not all. All right, so you guys gonna help me, right? Okay. You will please repeat after me, sir. I, William Thomas Lee,
William Thomas Lee,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
that I will continue to be faithful
that I will continue to be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers
and to the constitutional powers
and authorities
and authorities
which are
which are
or may be
or may be
established
established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support,
that I will endeavor to support,
maintain,
maintain,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution of said state,
the Constitution of said state,
not inconsistent with
not inconsistent with
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
that I will be alert
that I will be alert
and vigilant
and vigilant
to enforce the criminal laws
to enforce the criminal laws
of this state,
of this state,
that I will not be influenced
that I will not be influenced
in any manner
in any manner
on account of personal bias
on account of personal bias
or prejudice,
or prejudice,
that I will
and that I will
faithfully
faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
execute the duties of my office
execute the duties of my office
as police sergeant
as police sergeant
according to the best of my skill,
according to the best of my skill,
abilities,
abilities,
and judgment.
and judgment.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Sergeant. Thank you, Chief.
Congratulations. Good job.
Oops, Stephen, I'm sorry. Your turn.
Okay, we have a few public hearings this evening. All of those are quasi-judicial hearings. So if there's anyone here tonight that is going to speak on one of these public hearings, either for or against, please stand and be sworn in by the clerk at this time. That includes the applicant, if the applicants are here to speak. So anyone wishing to speak on a public hearing, please stand now and be sworn in.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, our first public hearing this evening is SUP 1902, Daniel Evans. The applicant is requesting a special use permit to allow a U-Haul rental facility on property located within a B3 zoning district. The property is considered for approval, is located on the east side of South Brightleaf Boulevard, approximately 120 feet north of its intersection with Welland Street, and further identified as Johnston County Tax ID number 150-52011. At this time, gentlemen, I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mayor.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries. I'll turn it over to our planning director. Stephen?
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is an image of the property. So this is a property that sits right next to Food Lion, owned by, or applicant is Daniel Evans. Owners is Catherine L. Parker. I haven't seen the applicant here tonight. he was informed, and he did see my memo also. So this is the location. Again, Food Lion sits here. This is the Marshalls own this property. And this currently is a multi-tenant building. It's a .663 acre parcel. It's Zone B3. There are multiple offices inside. Most of them are currently vacant. It does have bright leaf access. It's about an 80-foot wide driveway currently. It's really only a right-in, right-out because there's a median in the way. So there actually are two buildings on the property. One sits back along the back property line, and the larger one is towards the front, the image that you saw. The condition of the paving throughout the property is very poor. There's no curb and gutter. It's paved up to the property line, so there's no buffer. It's not striped any longer, so the striping is all gone. As I said, the front driveway is about 80 feet wide, exceeding the town standards. Current standards are 36 feet. This has been this way for a very long time. As I said, there's already right in, right out because of median. The narrowness of the driveways on both sides of the building are really only suitable for one-way traffic. It's not striped, or there's no indication of that at this point. However, I think the driveways are like 10 or 12 foot wide at best. And this is the small building towards the back. You can see one of the U-Haul trucks sitting there now. So the large building is roughly 4,000 square feet in size, and the smaller is about 2,000. So the one in the image here is the 2,000 square foot building. The large building has three tenants: Lions Pride LLC, Lions Den Income Tax Services, and Primary Health Choice, Inc. So Primary Health Choice is, I think, a home health provider. Lions Den Income is pretty much only busy during income tax times, very low use generator. And Lions Pride LLC is operating the U-Haul currently. The smaller building is vacant and has 2 units. So the Marshall business has the substance abuse comprehensive outpatient treatment offices within it. To the front and to the side, to the side and to the back is the Food Lion, and across the street is Carroll Pharmacy. This is the site plan that the applicant provided. It's a little bit faded. So they're showing striping. I asked them to provide striping so we have some idea of, for one, what parking can be accommodated on the site, and that the parking stalls be sized to handle the U-Haul, showing where he wants the U-Haul to be parked. And absent from his sketch was this canopy structure here over the doors on the side, and that's a 5 foot by, I can't remember what width, maybe 12 feet in width, but that was absent from his site plan, and that protruded into the drive lane which he had shown. And it actually conflicted with where he was showing the U-Haul trucks. So you'll see a condition on my staff report addressing that. And he also didn't have the drive lanes quite drawn correctly, and I went out and measured them. As you can see, this one is 10 feet. He's got 13 feet shown here between the canopy and the parking here. So this whole application came about because code enforcement discovered the U-Haul business in operation at the site without a special use permit. And this is typically what we find because a lot of the U-Haul businesses don't realize they need a special use permit, and they don't ask and they open the business. Our practice has been, as long as you come in and apply for a special use permit, will allow you to operate until we find out what the outcome of this hearing is. And so that's the state we're in right now, and it's taken a couple months for the applicant to produce a site plan that we could accept that actually showed the conditions on the ground, and we finally got there, and so we're here tonight. So the required parking for the amount of office space shown is 24 parking stalls, and they have shown 24 stalls. The U-Haul rental business will use up to 9 of them if they're all fully parked and not being rented. If the office buildings were fully occupied, there could be a shortage of parking stalls based on the required parking. And there are no curb stops in the parking lot, and the paving extends to the adjacent property line, particularly on the Marshall side, because there's no buffer between the two uses whatsoever. As a result, staff is recommending curb stops be installed with the parking, with the stripe parking. And the Marshalls have called me and commented that the use has been beelining through their property to get access to Brogdon Road. So, some traffic control is advisable with this permit. And as I said, the site plan does not show the entrance canopy, which reduces the drive lane width to only 13 feet. Staff is recommending moving the U-Haul to the rear of the building. It's one of the conditions of approval. So there are no buffer yards whatsoever. Paving extends to the property line on the front and sides of the property. There is a small grassy area at the front and one towards the rear of the lot. The only trees on the site are located back behind the rear building. And so the U-Haul trucks will have no screening from adjacent uses. So you're going to have these trucks parked in near proximity to the neighboring properties. So I've prepared a number of findings of fact. Staff is in favor of this permit. There's been no complaints other than the traffic through the neighboring property, and I think the conditions of approval address that. I have discussed it with the Marshalls, and the Marshalls have no problem with the use as long as that the cut-through traffic is becomes prohibited. And so I've recommended conditions based on those site conditions being that the rental be limited to the 5 U-Haul trucks and 4 U-Haul trailers, and they be in designated and striped parking stalls, that the entire parking lot be striped for parking stalls and one-way flow through the lot, and that the awning either be removed or the U-Haul be reestablished to the rear of the property, so there's enough room for vehicular access, and that there be curb stops installed to prohibit parked vehicles from encroaching on adjacent property. And so staff is requesting the council to consider this petition and make a determination whether to approve with conditions, or to deny the request based on the findings of fact. And do you have any questions?
Any questions for Stephen at this time?
Mayor, I do have a question. Mr. Winsor, thank you for your presentation. How can you stripe the parking lot in such poor condition?
It's just not going to last a long time. We've had similar requests. Market Street Auto, downtown, they've put striping in. It's not in great condition. It's there, they'll just have to maintain the striping. You can do it, it's just, it can wear off easier. Doesn't look as nice when it goes on either.
Any other questions at this time? Did the applicant come in by chance?
I don't see him. He was informed.
Okay. Is anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this, for or against at this time? Any other questions from the council? If not, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor? Okay. Any other further discussion? If not, we can go through the 8 findings of fact found on page 15 and 16. Or I'll entertain a motion to move all those at once. And plan staff did make recommendations that are included in your agenda package as far as conditions on it. I think they're found on page, what is that? 13 and 14, I believe.
I move we approve with the special conditions as, as put forth by the planning board.
Okay. Have a motion to approve all of the finding of facts and with the conditions stated by the planning staff. That correct, sir?
That's correct.
Right. Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay. And then I'll need to have a motion and a second to approve the actual request. We did the finding of facts, and I guess we kind of did that all in the same motion, but okay. Motion to approve. Motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, sir. Next, we'll move on to SUP 1906, Extra Mile Motors. The applicant is requesting a special use permit to allow for an automobile dealership on properties located within a B3 zoning district. The properties considered for approval are located on the north side of West Market Street, approximately 500 feet east of the intersection with NC Highway 210, and further identified as Johnston County Tax ID 15080019 and 15080055. This time I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Make a motion to open the public hearing. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Stephen?
All right. So this application is being made by Roy Willard Whitley. It's a special use permit to operate an automobile sales lot designed to accommodate 10 vehicles located in the B3 Highway Entrance Business Zoning District. So back in 2016, this very same application was heard by the council and approved by the council right before Hurricane Matthew, I'm told, and the business never opened, so the permit expired. So this is, all the improvements were installed. So the original permit approval had a site plan requirement. The site plan was actually installed prior to them not opening. And so what is on the ground today is what was required then, and we're not requiring anything additional other than just the landscaping be maintained, and if there's any dead material, have it be replaced. The project name is Extra Mile Motors. They're the auto dealership. It straddles two properties owned by the same property owner, Mr. Costello. The portion of the property being utilized is 1.04 acres. The other site, I guess, is PTI Transportation Retails, PTI Transportation, sorry. To the north is Cox Auto Repair. Cox kind of surrounds them on two sides. Across the street is Plan B Nightclub, and Whitley's is on the town side of the property. Again, Cox Auto is also to the west. I already went through this. Here's a close-up of the actual site. Looks like it had quite a few cars on it at this point when this picture was taken. So auto sales is permitted as a special use in the B3 district. The site shows 14 paid parking stalls and 1 handicap stall. 2 of them are on the west side of the building. There is a fence screening the front of the site from the back of the site. And the front is, again, the car dealership, and the back is kind of this transport business. And that was all done back in 2016-17 when they put those improvements in. The landscaping is really the town's landscaping on the front, but there is has been some death of some of the plant material. The original SUP did approve the dealership for 10 cars for sale. So staff has provided a number of findings of fact supporting its recommendation for approval. I could go through those or skip those. Unless I don't hear anything, I'll just skip to the recommendations. Planning Department is recommending approval with 2 conditions: that no more than 10 cars be for sale on the lot at any one time, and that they be within striped parking stalls, that any dead or damaged planting be replaced, and that the landscaping on site and on the boulevard be maintained in accordance with Article 10 of the Landscape Code. And with that, do you have any questions?
Questions for Steve? Okay. Is anyone in the audience wishing to speak? Is the applicant here? If you will, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Seamus Costello, home address, business address, 59 Holiday Island Drive, Garner, North Carolina. I did meet with you gentlemen and ladies before about this, and the picture that you had up there was actually after I had left to go fulfill another lease, just keep business operating. There was a little bit of a slowdown for the paving where the city was going to build those landscape barriers and the paving to the parking lot. So I went to open up somewhere just to keep everything going with the obligation to return at a later time. Those cars were the tenant in the back, which has already been squared away. All vehicles on my part will face out. I've actually never had 10 vehicles. Everything I do is pretty much already pre-sold. When they're there for a short period of time. I'll be taking care of the landscape. It has grown up a bit since I've returned and finished that lease, but it will be maintained accordingly. That I can assure you. And I don't do anything along the lines of broken, tacky, old, rundown. I don't do any auto repair. That's done off-site and redelivered to me at a later time. And that's about it. But I do plan on taking care of everything, getting it back up to par where it should be and where we wanted to last time. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
I'm sorry, sir, one more question for you. So you heard what the planning director stated. Do you agree with all the facts and so forth that he
Yes.
stated?
Yes, I do.
You agree with those? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak for or against this request? Seeing none. Any other questions for Steve from the council? If not, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion, close the public hearing.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Public hearing is closed. Okay, gentlemen, finding of fact are on page 34 and 35. We can go through each one of those, or I will accept a motion to accept all of those in the affirmative, if you guys so choose.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion and a second to accept the eight findings of fact. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Yeah, I make a motion, we approve the request.
Okay. I've got a motion and a second to approve the request, and that is with the two conditions that were listed. I think there were two, is that correct? Two. Okay, that were recommended by the planning staff, is that, okay? Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, the next public hearing is SUP 19-07, page 49 in your agenda packet. The applicant is requesting a special use permit to allow for a residential dwelling on property located within a B2 zoning district. The property considered for approval is located on the east side of South 7th Street, approximately 120 feet south of its intersection of Woodall Street, and further identified as Johnston County Tax ID 15031049. This time, I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries. Stephen?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So this use permit is, the applicant is Hill Sierra, and she's wanting to take a property in the B2 business district and return it to a single-family use, which requires a special use permit. It's a .12 acre parcel. Currently, it's vacant. It was a former beauty salon. As you can see here, it's a old single-family home that faces 7th Street. All the other businesses on this part of the block face Brightleaf Boulevard. On 7th Street, there's a mix of single-family zoning and business zoning. Of the single-family homes, they're all of the same character as this house facing 7th Street. So to the north is the tobacco warehouse, an old tobacco warehouse. To the south is a contractor's office and upholstery shop. And across the street is a single-family residential home, and across Brightleaf is the ABC store. So the current building is an old home, and it's located on a non-conforming 50 by 100-foot lot. That lot does not have frontage on Brightleaf. It stops short of Brightleaf, so you can't really tell where the commercial property adjacent to it begins and where this property ends. There's no defining lawn or any character. The driveways just run into each other, so it's all been kind of used and driven over in the past. The property frontage is on 7th Street by a gravel dirt driveway that leads to the back, which is all gravel mixed with the commercial use. There's no discernible demarcation of property boundaries. The only property on, it's the only property on that part of the block that fronts on 7th Street, as I said before. Just some images here. So this is the rear of the property. It's all, kind of gravel. There is a concrete pad here, but there's gravel and dirt and grass mixed up. And it leads to a driveway on this side to the front of the home, which you see here. This is a picture from 7th Street. There's a commercial property sitting here, and the warehouse sits behind it here. So the applicant is looking to fix up the home. And here's another view. So the warehouse is kind of behind us here. We're looking to the, southwest. As I said, single-family residential requires a special use permit in the B2 district. The property is originally constructed as a single-family home. It has the same character as the other homes on 7th Street. There's a mix of business and commercial zoning in the area. If there were a fence, it would prevent trespassing between the residential and commercial uses, potential conflicts, and that is a condition of approval that I am recommending because you're going to have very different uses. I think it's appropriate in this case. I've got a number of findings of fact which I can go through if the council would like. But as I said, I'm recommending approval with the two conditions: that the applicant shall use the property strictly in accordance with the plans submitted and approved by the council, and that the applicant fences the side and rear of the property. And again, the fencing is just to eliminate any conflicts between commercial parking, commercial uses, and residential uses, so there's a clear separation between them, given the unique location of that building in a commercial block. So staff's requesting the council review the petition, whether to decide whether to approve with conditions, or deny.
Any questions for the planning director?
I do have a question for him. Can you go back to the site plan picture and show us where you referenced the recommended fence?
Sorry.
Right there.
So I'm recommending a fence be along this side in here. This is not really an active use, and the house sits pretty much on the property line, so there's no real reason to fence it there. It's really fencing this side where the driveway comes in and this back property line, so that this business use coming off Brightleaf does not, so there won't be conflicts between the commercial use, commercial parking, and residential uses.
And what kind of fence are you all recommending?
I'm not specifying. I mean, personally, a screening fence would be best, but just even a security fence would give the understanding to somebody that this is private property.
And how long since it's been residential? Do you have a
I couldn't tell you. I think it's been a salon for quite a long time. I don't know.
But it in fact was once residential.
Yeah, it was built as a residential home.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Stephen, at this time?
the applicant here? Is there anything you would like to add? You've been sworn in by the clerk, is that correct? Okay. Anything you would like to add to this? If so, if you will, please come to the front. Can you come up here, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. My English is not friendly, but I hope you understand. The thing is, I make a business there, but it's very hard for me, to have advertisements because it's not, it's in the front of 301. But I can even have some advertisement that people can see the place, So I've been trying hard for almost, I think, 10 years. But I always pay bills and I don't see any increase in my business. So that's my petition. So you consider it. So I will prefer, to pass to the residential and, to earn some money from the house.
Okay.
To
Right.
rental.
Okay. And you heard the facts that the planning director stated earlier. Do you agree with everything that the planning director
Yes, I
stated?
understand. I understand.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the council? Sure.
Just to make sure we understand, so I think I understood you to say you used to have a business there and you want to make it residential.
Yes.
And you're going to lease the house or live there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so there's not going to be a business there now because
No,
of that,
no,
this
no,
is
no.
counterproductive.
No, it's very complicated.
Okay.
I don't have enough parking.
I understand.
I don't have enough parking.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak for or against this? Seeing none, any other questions from the council? If not, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Findings of fact are on page 54 and 55. Same with the other two gentlemen. We can go through all of them, or I'll entertain a motion to approve all the findings of fact.
I make a motion to approve all findings of facts 1 through 8.
Motion and a second to approve the findings of fact. All in favor? Okay. This time, we need a motion to approve with the 2 conditions that the planning staff has recommended, if that's the pleasure of the council.
Mayor, I make a motion we approve with the recommendation by staff and with the screening fence.
Okay. I have a motion to approve with the conditions. I have a second. All in favor, say aye. And all opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen. At this time, we'll come to the part of the agenda for citizens' comments. Oh, did we? Did I miss something? What did I miss?
Is that not on here?
Is that new business?
Go ahead.
I mean, old business.
Gotcha, sorry.
That's the old business.
My name is Emma Gimmel, and I live at 207 Hancock Street, Smithfield, North Carolina. And I would like to talk about water and sewer distribution problems. Number one is water. In 2017, the town filed a report with North Carolina Local Water Supply Commission that showed we had unaccounted for water, lost water, of 557,000 gallons per day. In 2018, this same report showed the unaccounted for water to be 62,600 gallons per day. The improvement for unaccounted for water was said to be because of better accounting software, not more accurate metering. However, the residential average daily metering went from 382,000 gallons per day in 2017 to over 1,170,000 gallons per day. Per capita, residential users went from using 33 gallons per day to 94 gallons per day in 2018. Residential usage tripled. In all towns around us, the residents used Benson, 42 gallons, Harnett County, 52, Wilson, 50, Raleigh, 48, Princeton, 53, Pine Level, 53, Selma, 42, Johnston County, 51, Clayton, 46, then Smithfield at 94 gallons per day. I think something is wrong. So we would like to meet with the town management to see how this report is calculated and to see how the billing works. Smithfield usage is too high, and I think it's because of pipe leakage. The county has a similar issue, and they are requesting the water efficiency study to be done by the local water supply. Maybe we should too. It was stated at the April 11th, 2019 meeting that we had installed a meter on the water we sell to the county per the bulk water agreement. Can you provide to us when that was done and how much it cost? Number 2 is the sewer. Also at the April 11th, 2019 budget meeting, Mr. Cradle said we have leaks in the sewer distribution system in West Smithfield. We don't meter our sewer that goes into that plant. In 2018, Clayton discharged 713,000 gallons per day on average. Smithfield discharged 1,967,000 gallons per day, almost triple Clayton. Clayton's population is double ours. This makes no sense. We need to develop a plan to fix this because this is costing the residents of Smithfield. The county is also talking about building a new sewer plant near the county landfill, which means the one in Smithfield will be decommissioned. What is our plan for this? We might need to expedite finding the sewer leaks and develop a plan to connect and meter all the interconnections into the sewer plant. How much will this cost? According to county officials, sewer is the big limitation on future growth. Clayton is probably going to build their own sewer plant so they won't be constrained by the county capacity issues. However, if Clayton does build its plant, it will free up some capacity for others. But it means that we will have to purchase sewer capacity for a satellite annexation. Have we planned for this? I think we have leaks in the water pipes and the sewer pipes. Thank you very much for your time and your hard work for our town. Now, I am...
Thank you, Ms. Gemmell.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I said thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Now, I am Pam Lampy, unless you have a question.
Well, the only question I have is that we try to limit this to about 3 to 5 minutes. So you said
I'm through.
You're Pam Lampy?
Pam can't read tonight.
All right.
So
Pam, do you want to come forward?
she can't read.
You can't read?
No, she cannot read. She had a dental appointment today.
Gotcha.
So I am reading hers.
Okay, so you had some specific questions. Can you give that to the clerk so that we know what that is, and the manager, and he can get in touch with you?
Could I have it? I wrote those questions later. I'll give it to you in a few minutes if that's okay.
Yeah, just as long as we have that so we can make sure we get your questions.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Pam Lampy, go ahead.
Okay, Pam Lampy, and she lives at 415 North 2nd Street. I don't look a little bit like her either. I want to share some thoughts relating to the water plant expansion, water tanks, and water and sewer distribution issues. First, I would like to have the council formally reconsider its motion to expand the water plant. Our town has plenty of existing water capacity to grow years into the future. In fact, we have agreed to sell excess capacity of over 3.5 million gallons a day to the county. Should we ever need more water, it will be much cheaper for the town to refund the county back its capacity fee paid of $4.25 million. And in 1985, that $1 million plus $3.25 million in 2017. That's the 4.25. To get back our existing capacity of 3.5 million gallons a day, instead of spending 15.3 million plus the 2.35 million in interest, a total of $17.65 million for this 2.1 million gallon expansion. Exactly how is the expansion justified by the town's needs? And then second, at the budget meeting on April 11th, 2019, we agreed to accept 3.25 million gallon capacity fee provided for the August 7th, 2017 bulk water agreement. This fee has to be returned on a prorate basis if we ever need it back. At this meeting, there was discussion and mention of using these funds to pay the Wooten Group Company engineering fee and to pay for a clear well finishing tank to help with water lines being constructed along Buffalo Road and Durwood-Stevenson Highway. I would like to have more conversation about the need for the finishing tank. Water produced for the county never gets stored, so why do we need this? Mr. Cradle stated we need it because we will be producing more water for the county and its law. So we kindly ask for documentation of this law. Third, we have agreed to hire UFS to do a rate study to determine what we should be charging the county for bulk water. This is a fabulous idea. Em and I would like to be involved when they come and do the study if possible. We think the cost of water to the county should include the cost of the 2 water lines being constructed, which are $5 million, the cost of the clear well tank of $3 million if it is proven that we need one, depreciation, reasonable amounts of capital improvements to the plant, and any part of the distribution system they use, and some other small items. We should not sell our water unless it helps us. We also should probably wait to adjust our bulk water rate until after this study to make sure we are adjusting it enough. After the budget meeting on April the 11th, 2019, Mr. Cradle told me that the water tank could be located anywhere. It could be in the air, South Smithfield, anywhere. Of course, he also noted that the money issue about moving it away from proximity of the plant. But we budgeted for a $2.5 million tank in South Smithfield, so that maybe this new tank could be relocated there and would therefore not require closure of South Smithfield, North 2nd Street. We also need to think about how we will be doing satellite annexation related to water and sewer lines based on our experience with Equity Drive. We need to have someone with expertise who can supervise the construction of the water and the sewer lines in these subdivisions that we will be assuming responsibility for. Also, how do these annexations work with our capacity? I understand we have to buy sewer capacity from the county for these areas and that the county may not let us swap out water like we had been doing with Holt Lake. Finally, no matter what happens with the water plant, the residents of North Smithfield would like the whole area around the plant and the operations center to be better landscaped and prettied up with a berm to hide the operation items and equipment. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your tireless service to our town and its residents.
Thank you, Ms. Gimmel and Ms. Lampy. Thank you very much.
Thanks for letting me read that.
No problem. Yes, sir. If you will, please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Trevor Frazier. I'm the business owner of Johnston Family Dentistry, 606 Buffalo Road. I'm here about a year or so ago. I met Councilman Lee, who invited me to come to the council so I can introduce myself to the council as a business owner. I've only been the business owner for about 2.5 years, so I've been attending the meeting roughly for about a year. So coming for that reason to introduce myself, but also to let you know of a program coming up at the office. We're having a free dental day. We're going to be providing services for the community. We're going to be offering free dental treatment for people in the community who don't have a dentist or dental insurance. It's coming up next Friday, May the 17th, so I was going to let you know if you have any constituents that may have this issue or anybody here who may have, also invite them out to the office. Again, at 606 Buffalo Road. It's next Friday, running from 8 to 12. So thank you guys for your time. If anybody wants a flyer, I can hand it out.
Yeah, could you leave some of those, and maybe we could post that on the, I mean, it's for the community, so it's not like we'd be advertising per se for a business. It's something that's for the betterment of the community. So could we get that out on our web page and social media? Is that okay with you?
That sounds fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, sir. I saw the...
Go Canes. I'm Judd Patterson. I live at 418 Westerman Place in Smithfield. I want to bring up the parking on 3rd Street issue one more time. I've been advised that we need a recommendation from the Downtown Smithfield Development Corporation to propose a plan to make the 3rd Street one-way from Market Street going toward the Howe Theater. It's our idea. We've proposed it to many people that come into the store that say, I finally got a parking spot. And they say, oh, well, that's a brilliant idea. We think, you should do it. So we know it's not going to happen overnight, but we did attend I guess it was an open house with the town planning. The engineering firm was here, and we talked to them about it, and they, their eyes, perked up, and they thought it was something worth considering. So I guess what I want to know is, where do we stand with this, and how do we light a fire under it and make it happen soon? I guess what level of detail from the Downtown Smithfield Development Corporation do you need so that we can?
Well, Sarah's here, but
yeah, I know.
What we really need is something from the board itself as a whole asking us to make that change. From that point, we have a transportation plan that we're working on now. We'll see how it integrates, and we'll start evaluating the steps that we would have to go through to make that a one-way. I assume you're just talking about the one block.
That one block, yes. And maybe,
usually if you have a one-way going in one direction, you turn around and have a one-way going in the opposite direction a block away. So you have a loop. So it would have to be looked at. We'd have to create some type of transportation plan to see how all that would come together.
Okay, and I've heard that. So how do we make that happen?
Well, first we need a vote of the board saying that's what they want.
Okay, just the board of the directors.
That would
make
be the
that
starting
recommendation.
point.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
The other thing is Mike, I'm not 100% sure, so maybe speaking out of it, but is that not considered a truck route? It's a non-truck route. It's a non-truck route now. Okay, we changed it.
Yeah, there's signs that say no trucks.
Okay,
I see
yeah.
them every day.
No, that's
but-
right. It used to be, and I think we changed that. That's right. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, at this time, we have the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the I think there were 2 items that were added to it.
I move to approve the agenda.
A motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Okay. All right, gentlemen, at the beginning of the meeting, we moved the proclamation for Mr. Worley to the end of the agenda, but I do see that he has come in. So if it is okay, instead of having that at the very end, if it's okay with Mr. Worley, unless he just wants to sit through the entire meeting, we'll go ahead and do that proclamation now, if that's okay.
Might need to make a motion for Mr. Worley on that.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to move that proclamation up to this point. All right, motion and second, all in favor? All right, so the agenda has been amended, and Mr. Worley, if you will, please come to the front for a proclamation for your many years of service to the Board of Adjustment and to the town of Smithfield. We truly appreciate it. We used to start at 7:30. Yes, you're right. Exactly right. Okay, if you will, please bear with me as I read this proclamation to Mr. Worley for his many years of dedicated service to the town of Smithfield. In honor of Paul Worley's dedicated service to the town of Smithfield's Board of Adjustment. Whereas Paul Worley, a resident of the town of Smithfield, has dedicated his time and attention by serving on the Board of Adjustment for over 15 years. And whereas during his tenure, Paul Worley served as chairman of the Board of Adjustment. And whereas Paul Worley provided exemplary and invaluable service towards the future development and vision of Smithfield. And whereas the citizens are so fortunate to have had a person of such experience dedicate so many years of service to the town of Smithfield's growth and prosperity. And whereas the town council deeply appreciates the important contributions Paul Worley has made to the town of Smithfield for its citizens. Now therefore, I, Andy Moore, Mayor of the town of Smithfield, along with the members of the town council, express our sincere appreciation to Mr. Paul Worley for his distinguished service to the town of Smithfield. Thank you very much, sir.
Oh, you sure don't have a speech?
I would like to say that I want to thank Mr. Worley is building a house in Smithfield. And you don't hear that often, but thank you for coming back and staying home and joining the neighborhood.
Thanks again, Paul. At this time, we will move on to our business items. First item this evening, first business item is on page 173 of your agenda. It's SUP 1905, Bonnie Godwin. This we had at one of our previous meetings, and the applicant is requesting a special use permit to allow for a residential dwelling on property located within an ONI zoning district. The property considered for approval is located on the north side of North Street, approximately 100 feet east of its intersection with North 7th Street. The property is further identified as Johnston County Tax ID 150-10047. Stephen?
Sure. Mayor and council, I would just like to give you a brief update since the last meeting. The two property owners have had some discussions, and there's been no compromise whatsoever. The doctor is still very much opposed to the residential use, and Ms. Godwin still wants to move ahead with the residential use of the property. This is the property, and just some photographs that depict what's happened since the last meeting. Ms. Godwin did have a surveyor come out to identify where the property line is, and this image here shows exactly that. At its closest to the doctor's office, it's 6 feet where the chimney comes out. So there's 6 feet of the driveway is the doctor's property, and the remainder is Ms. Godwin's.
How much is remaining?
I believe it's 12 of driveway. I'll show you another picture here. So some of these pictures were provided by Dr. Lee today, so I agreed to show those in the presentation. So he uses that driveway for vehicles such as this, dropping off handicapped folks at his clinic. As you can see, the ramp for his office does access Ms. Godwin's, or the shared driveway, most of which is owned by Ms. Godwin. This is Ms. Godwin's property, the house that she wants to turn residential. And again, you can see the handicap ramp coming out of his front door there. There's a picture of the ramp in close. And this is the rear of Ms. Godwin's property, the long garage carport. And this is the parking lot that spans the distance between Ms. Godwin's property all the way out to, what, four properties away. So that's the update. There's been no change in the situation other than we know now where the property line is.
So there's no shared driveway agreement or anything that's been recorded or agreed upon, is that correct?
Nothing to any of our knowledge.
So the other question I would have is either property owner could technically put a fence up
Technically,
within, can the fence go all the way to the property line as
It can.
according to our ordinances, correct?
It can.
So either property owner could install a fence on this, which may or may not prevent one or the other from utilizing that driveway
That
as
is
it
correct.
stands today. Is that a fair statement?
Well,
Can they, Mr. Attorney?
it is,
I guess they
in
could.
part, they could. You know, the character of this driveway has, by usage over quite a few years, possibly become a joint driveway, you know, and it could claim a joint right to use that as a matter of right. So you could end up litigating exactly what the rights of that driveway are.
Right.
Obviously, this is, I think I went there in the 50s when I was, they had a duck, and they had the doctor's offices back there, and, you know, certainly in the 60s or 70s, Mr. Strickland was developing an office, the doctor's offices where Kaiser Abraham used to have his office behind this. So it's been around.
Gentlemen, any questions for planning director at this time? Any questions at this time?
Did the planning board have any recommendations for this? I mean, that's what I'm.
This being a special use permit, the planning board didn't hear it, but staff did have some recommendations, and I can go to those. Yeah, the recommendation was just that the applicant shall use the property in strict accordance with the submitted plans and approved by the town council.
I think I heard the doctor speak up back there. The public hearing portion of this, we had at the last meeting, and that was opened and closed. However, just because we kind of did, well, we did postpone it until this meeting, if the applicants, if the applicants wish to speak, I think I can allow them to come up and speak. We'll ask you to please limit your comments, if you don't mind, because the public hearing portion of this has closed, but again, it'll probably help the council as well, refresh their memories as, from last meeting. So if the applicants are, well, not the applicants, but the parties are here and would like to speak, we'll say allow. So does anyone wish to speak? If not, we'll move on, but does anyone wish to speak? You wish? Okay, come forward, please. Well, he's not the applicant, but he's, yeah. So Doc, before you start, if you'll hold on 1 second, I need to speak with the attorney.
Are you gonna open it up for, advocacy? It's really kind of technical.
Should we open up
Yeah, let's just open it up.
public hearing, have them sworn?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I mean, does
Everybody's sworn. Are you gonna, Bonnie, you gonna?
Is the applicant going to speak on this? Okay, so even though it's under new business, we'll have a public hearing on it. And we'll just reopen the public hearing if that pleases the council.
I move we open the public hearing.
Okay, have a motion to open the public hearing.
And this is continued from our last session.
It is continued from our last session. At this time, though, I don't believe either one of you were sworn. I know you were sworn at the last meeting. You were here? Both of you were here? Okay, and both duly sworn tonight. Okay, all right, great. All right,
Does she want to go? All right.
go ahead.
All I was going to do is a couple of things. First, let me get this out. This is a petition from all the business owners around that area. It's more than 60 names that do not want to change the residential. And all those commercial businesses are basically, we look at that area as it's all north, and it goes down that long driveway, goes right in the hospital parking lot, goes to 8th Street, and it's all downhill slope. It goes into 8th Street, and then it goes in the hospital. Okay, thanks. I didn't have it right. What do you put? Right there. Huh? Well, the part of the long parking lot, all this concrete y'all saw in the picture, goes it's a downhill slope to the hospital parking lot, to 8th Street, which is a hospital driveway where 18-wheelers go to for the hospital, ambulances, and everything else. Y'all probably been by that 1,000 times. But that is the back part of that area. I think the other point, what we talked about last time, and it really hasn't changed, patient care, patient safety and child safety if there's a house back there. I mean, that downhill slope, if you're out there playing baseball, basketball, football, that's going straight downhill. And that was empty parking lot after hours. That place is full during hours, and or potentially can be. And now every baseball, every basketball, every football is coming down there and goes all the way to the hospital. It won't stop. It'd be kind of like having a house in the middle of Cameron Village or something like that, something very similar. And I still think the patient and the child safety issues are there. Can I get that picture of that? Yeah, right there, that'd be great. This pretty much shows it. I mean, Dr. Tom Johnson owned this place, told me it's halfway down the middle of each driveway, which is about the truth, maybe off a little bit. But both of us, you can't get a vehicle in that driveway. So it's like a mountain road. You either get one in there, somebody's got to give. There's no way to have two different driveways there. It's not possible, particularly with medical vehicles. That could be your mom, dad, anybody else coming in there, and that's not a really big one, or us, any of us going in there. They go to and there's only one entrance to that building, to my building, which has been off for over 20 years, and before that, Dr. Johnson had it the same way. That goes, the handicap ramp goes into that driveway. That's the only way for patients to get in there. There's one back door, that's just for employees. It's only has steps. So I think it kind of shows that is a functional shared driveway. There's no way around it. There's only one way to get one car in there or one vehicle in there, and a lot of these vehicles are bigger than that, whether it's EMS or whatever you put in there. And this is not, the whole area is all commercial. It's not family friendly. Could you show me the front? Could you show me maybe the vehicle in the front? Oh, and was there one of them with a better one? Let's see. If you don't mind. I guess that's kind of the best one we had of the front. I think so. Yeah, that's what I think right here. I mean, this shows the whole driveway. The other one showed the driveway too, but that's just a random vehicle that was bringing the patients by that day. It shows it will sit right in the middle. It takes up the whole driveway. And So it is a functional shared driveway. There's no way to really get around there. You can't put a fence down the middle of it without blocking patient care, patients getting in there. You can't really put children back in that place. They're going to be intermixed with ambulances and everything else, other cars. Even the ambulance drivers, some of them signed a petition too. They said, they thought it was pretty dangerous. This actually has been denied once before. I was here when, with the same situation with Big Wooten, Mike. He was here. And they denied it then because of the same reason. And it's more busy now than it is then, than it was then. And because, and I would appreciate y'all taking some consideration that all of us have been there for many, many years, including Dr. Singh and all the rest of us have put a lot of time and effort in that area. Changing it from, changing it from residential or commercial residential is certainly going to be a problem in that area. And Dr. Singh and all other doctors think it's definitely a safety issue too. Dr. Copley, the dentist right behind, a little north of there, he says that he has people across the street residential away from his office, and they have issues about every day with kids coming up and playing in the yard and whatnot, having issues, afraid they're going to run somebody over, so to speak. But I am concerned that slope driveway, just the slope driveway alone, sends that any kind of ball will go down to that all the way to the hospital, and some kids are going to get hit from that viewpoint. Not to mention I can't get patients in the office, and most of the patients I have are very, very ill. A lot of them stretchers, a lot of them wheelchairs, and so I appreciate y'all's consideration not to do this. I have talked to Renee. I'm sorry? I did call Renee, and I did try to get your mom's number. I left a message about your mom, and I never got that. I was trying to get a hold of your mom. And, but as I told Renee, and Dr. Singh's office talked about it too, it was any way we could try to help get a commercial business in there would help. There's always been commercial people in there over 50 years, as we talked about last time. And but as I told Renee, we try to help any way we could. I even talked to the hospital. We discussed that, Dr. Singh's office too. Maybe the hospital could buy it. That'd be, and they control a lot of the area around there. But I remodeled my place twice, upwards of $200,000. It costs a lot of money to keep a commercial venture going there, and it just and it's not the old house it used to be, so to speak. Although Dr. Johnson had a really nice office. But any consideration, I think, is from the patient viewpoint and the kid viewpoint. I think it's a very difficult situation we're putting folks in. And Kim has some more pictures if you want to look at it a little more close. Kim, why don't you just give Ms. Pat, let him pass it around. There's a little more clear if you want to look at it. To the these, most of them are the same pictures. You can pass them around, but it shows just how blatantly. I think the one picture that gets it all, says it all, is how blatantly that one ambulance. It's not even a huge ambulance. Just a carrier for people in wheelchairs. It takes up the whole thing, whole driveway.
Dr. Lee, if it were rented without children, what would the problem be then?
Rented without, well, that would be commercial, be no problem.
Rented residential with no children?
That's not going, you can't guarantee that though.
If the landlord guaranteed.
You can't guarantee that. I'd never heard that before.
But do you have objection to it?
Possibly, because certainly there'll be kids, there'll be grandkids and everything else. This is like we're trying to zone something out in Florida when they try to do that down there. Try to keep people out over 3 weeks. You have kids there, sometimes you can't. It doesn't work. Somebody's gonna get squashed by that back, putting it mildly. And there's big vehicles coming in. And when something rolls down that road onto 8th Street, which is easily do that, we've all done it. Kick the ball somewhere down there, and the 18-wheelers go there. Between there on 8th Street or Hospital Road or whatever it is, whatever you call it. The hospital supply trucks come there, they can take you out. It's not made, as you see, it's all fenced off for business, all fenced off for commercial. And been that way for many, many years. And those driveways on both sides of Sharon, that's the only way I can get the patients in there is through that driveway. And I've still got whatever the survey says, it's still a big chunk of it's mine.
Mayor Pro Tem, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I do have a question for you, sir. So we postponed this in efforts to hope that you and your neighbors, so to speak, could work it out. My question to you is, do you have any written agreement to use that driveway? Because obviously half of it's yours and half of it's hers. Have y'all worked anything out?
Well, what it was is, this was the office had been using there, we all shared, because the other side's the same way. Hospital owns the next building down, and everybody shares the driveway.
Well, we're talking about this one. The
A
reason I
written
asked that
agreement?
question is simply because, for the record, this applicant has a right to do what she wishes with the town's blessing as any resident or commercial person does in the town. My concern is, you know, the whole approach with this was to hopefully if you guys could come to a gentleman's agreement. But without that, you're gonna make the town you're forcing our hand to make the decision.
Well, I did call Renee, and I did call, and talk to them about it, and they're not, but it's hopefully help get somebody in there, a commercial person in that building. And with, the driveways have been shared, according to Dr. Johnson, since, that'd be over 50 years ago too. That's all I knew. That's what we carried on. We shared the driveways, the shared driveway. Because that line goes all the way back to the fence. It goes all the way to the parking, straight shot. All the way to the back.
Sir, what's on the other side of your business?
What
Is there a driveway on the other side of your business?
Yes, there's one on this, over here.
Who owns that driveway?
Me and the hospital.
So
we
you've
share the
got
same-
two driveways.
Right, but I don't have access to my front door via that driveway. You have to roll people in a stretcher across grass. And,
Is that because of the way the ramp's configured currently?
I don't think
Because,
it's a way to.
I mean, is there a ramp that comes from your front door going to this driveway? Is
It
that
goes this driveway, yeah.
right?
Always has.
So the question is could the ramp go from your front door to the other driveway? Right.
Well, not really. It'd have to be a whole different building set. I mean, that'd be a whole addition to the building.
But it could be. Is that
Well, I guess.
fair
you could
statement?
you could build a whole deal. If you can look at the building and see that.
I'm-
Got fence up and everything there for the patients.
I'm just asking,
And this
is
code.
could that happen?
Yeah. I mean, have to tear down everything and start over again.
Right, yeah. No, I mean, obviously, with the way it's currently set up, you could, yeah,
Like I said, I own as much of that side as on this side.
gotcha.
And the hospital owns the other part. Dr. Woodall's old office.
So I have a question. So how long have you been in this building?
Oh, gosh, over 2 decades now.
Over 20 years? You've
Yes,
had a
sir.
successful business in the town of Smithfield in in that building? Have you had any trouble at all with any of your neighbors during that time period?
No, sir.
It's always been commercial?
Always. Long before I've been there.
And it was, it is zoned by the city, by the town of Smithfield as being a commercial property
As far as
during
I
that whole
know,
time period?
all the time I've dealt, well, long before I dealt with it, yes, sir.
So to do something different, then in your opinion, do something different would be altering the thing, the understanding that you had when you put your business in this location 20 years ago?
Oh, yes. It'll be definitely a different ball of wax then.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Mayor, council's question was directed to a person with a biased opinion for the record. We don't know factually how long that's been zoned. We can ask the staff.
So I would ask the staff, can you tell me how long he's been there? Since he's been there 20 years, clearly, it's been at least 20 years since he's lived there 20 years in that business. So that's a statement of fact, not my opinion, because he's been there 20 years.
I didn't say it was your opinion, sir. I was talking about the person.
Understand?
And, Mr. Mayor and Council, I couldn't tell you how long it's been that way. It's been that way for several versions of the zoning map, is all I know. Bob remembers it as being commercial. I don't know if he knows how long it's been zoned that way.
I don't know the old zoning maps. Anybody who grew up in Smithfield knows that doctor's offices were there, right here.
Oh, it's been a while. It's been at least 20 years.
It keeps going on.
We didn't have zoning until what, 91?
Looks like a residential house to me.
So, you know.
It keeps going on north for a long ways, all the buildings do.
Any other questions at this time? Okay. Thank you, sir. Does the applicant wish to speak? I'm sorry, what was it?
Could you state her name and address?
Sure, please state your name
Okay.
and address.
I am Bonnie Godwin. I reside at 778 Napoleon Road, Selma.
Dr. Godwin needs to be sworn.
I've already done it when I first got. They both sworn. Yeah, she was sworn, she stood up.
I'm sorry.
When I was here before, thank you for your time before and thank you for your time tonight. You guys asked that maybe we could work together, maybe share in a survey. None of that happened. I did do a survey. I actually own 12 feet on one side. He owns from 4 feet. His widest point is 6 feet. And that's from the chimney. I think Stephen brought that out. I have a copy from Merle Hall that did the survey finding the points. Okay, my driveway is not a shared driveway. The other driveway is clearly shared. The point, the little nail they find and your anchor from way back when at the back goes directly in the middle of that driveway. We bought this property June the 29th of 2017. It has never been rented since we've had it. I told you before, there is a demand for housing all across our county, not for commercial. I did hear from my daughter that maybe there was some people looking commercial property. I asked her to go with me. We went to them. I met them at this house. They went in, they were very gracious, but they had no interest in opening their business in an older house. All of these places may have been commercial for a good while, but they started as residential. They have pretty much used their lifetime as commercial property. There are ways to make driveways, walkways. I've had to do it in other properties when I was in a similar circumstance that he can turn his walkway. His walkway that he's talking about, he actually has 4.5 feet because his walkway extends in the asphalt. He's got 4.5 feet where he's parking his vehicles. And he's coming in from the back, as you can see from this picture. He comes around from the back and unloads and heads out the front. So I hope you guys will consider that I have done everything I can. I've had signs out. I've had a lot of people for residential. Pretty much I have no one now because they've been turned down continuously. But I hope you will consider that I've had this property for right at 2 years. That is not a shared driveway. 4.5 feet to 6 feet versus 12 feet, that's not a shared driveway. So I alone had to do the surveying. I alone had to pretty much do everything, go out, try to find commercial renters, and they're just not there. And if you would like to see this, I'll be glad to pass it down. The survey, if any of you want to see it. And that's a copy of the deed.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a couple? Sure. When you say the ambulance comes from around back, how does it get round, how does it come from the back?
They're at the, what is that street? It's the street from the hospital. It goes all the way around the back. Steve, you probably can explain that better.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think I see what you're saying.
Yeah, there's several properties, and then there's a main driveway or road to the hospital here.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. What kind of property is beside of you? Is it residential or business?
It's residential on the one side and the doctor's office on the other side.
The doctor's office,
Several doctors.
Yeah.
There's 2 residential on the one side, and then there's, 3 commercial properties to the right.
So she's in the,
This whole block of nothing but, and there's, county services across the street.
so you're in the middle.
So if you will, please state your name, and address for the record, please.
Yes, I'm Dr. Renee Watson. I am the daughter of Bonnie Godwin, and Dr. Richard Lee has referred to me in several previous statements as Renee. And I'm a 55-year resident of this county, next week, don't tell anyone. And I practice primary care medicine at Johnston Family Medicine, one road over from Dr. Richard Lee. I pretty much know the traffic pattern of what goes in and out of my practice, and I see the traffic pattern of what goes in and out of his practice. I understand how traffic patterns work. I understand what it means to have an ambulance or rescue squad come to your office. I practice primary care medicine, which means on any given day, I may have a patient go into VTAC or any type of medical urgency or emergency that I definitely have to call rescue to come and pick up. Every time a rescue squad or ambulance comes to my office, they come to the back door because that is where our treatment facilities are located. They do not wheel the patient in through the front door. They do not wheel into the waiting area where most patients are sitting. That is standard procedure for many offices. I can't say what happens in Dr. Lee's office. I have not been in there, but I can say that that's not a hardship on us. As a matter of fact, it's easier for the patients and families and those who might be affected by any event or things that are happening. And I'm quite sure that happens. It happens a fair amount with my practice if someone needs to be transported to even our hospital, our ER, or another facility where they have another specialist in care. Using that back door has not caused us any problems. It's been a helpful thing for us. As Dr. Lee mentioned, he did have a telephone call with me. The telephone call that he had, I believe, was initiated by me. Is that correct, Richard? Right. So I reached out to Richard in hopes that we would have an amicable agreement because good neighbors is what this county's all about. And as I said, 55 years, I've tried to get along with everybody here. So as a good neighbor, I called Richard and said, look, we need to figure out how to work this out. It's 2 years, we can't get a commercial renter. I've gone around, I've asked, I've talked to Home Health's other companies to try to get them in there. They're just not interested because this building was built as a home. And when you have a home, it has a different arrangement. I know it's been repurposed as a physician office, but it was built originally, these are all homes along this street. So we have not been successful in renting that building, but we do know there is a great need in our community for single-family dwellings, for families that are coming in, and we felt that this would help fulfill that need for the county and bringing families in. When I spoke to Richard about the property, he did mention children. However, I don't think we can say, I will not rent to you because of who's in your family, what's in your family, what ages are in your family. I think there's some legalities involved with that that would kind of get you in trouble. So I'm not sure someone wiser than me and knows the law better than me might can answer that. But Richard's main concern with me was that he said, quote, this will drag down the property value if you put a residential beside my building and beside my business, and he didn't want to drag it down, which means to me, I'm not leaving or going anywhere, but I don't know if he's looking at selling in the nearby future. So I don't know about property values. All I know is trying to fulfill a need of the citizens of Johnston County. I fulfill a need as a family physician. I think this building, this home that is beside Richard Lee's office, can fulfill a need for another family to come in. I will say that when I looked at this property and went back around and around it, if I had a rescue squad or an ambulance, they could easily come in that very wide. Do you know the width of this picture? I do. I mean, it's super wide. They can easily, that's what they do, they come through this. Instead of pulling in the driveway that's between the two properties where he has 4.5 to 6 feet, they could easily pull into the driveway on the other side that he jointly shares with the hospital.
It's about 70, 75 feet.
75 feet is the width of that back driveway. So that's ample room for a rescue squad to turn around. And that's what the people who come in did the survey looked at. So I thank you again for your time and your consideration, and I hope that you'll see that this building needs to be used, because if it's not used, it's going to go to the bad, and it's going to be an eyesore, and we're just trying to help folks out.
Can I ask a question? Being you looked at your property and anticipated for family dwellings, do you see any modifications or anything you might want to make to the property if you're looking for residential that you think that might be a need if you want to make it residential? I mean, example, like I said, the backyard looks like it opens up into a giant parking lot where there could be traffic out there is one of the concerns that he had. I'm just saying, is that something you guys looked at when you think, all right, yes, it was a business, therefore it was a giant parking lot in the back because it was a business, right? If I want to make it into a residential area, is there some modifications I need to make to make it more of a residence and not part of a giant parking lot in the back? I'm just wondering.
No, sir. The back is mostly carports, which most families would be very happy to have. And really and truly, we have a good front yard. We have a big driveway, so, and the residence is actually still set up like a house. Whoever had it before did not modify it. It still has a full bath, it has a half bath, it has the sink where the kitchen, I'm assuming that's where the kitchen was. They did not really modify that to look like a commercial building.
Are y'all finished with us, or do you have any other
Any more
questions?
questions for the applicant?
I do have one question. You do have a parking space in front of your house,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry. You do have a parking space in front of your house. There's a driveway, but also is there a
Yes, sir.
second driveway?
Parking pad or something?
Yes.
Does it
this-
also have a curb entrance into your yard?
No.
I'd have to go back and really look.
It looks like a little parking pad. I don't know if it's got a separate driveway entrance.
It does not.
No, it doesn't
Okay.
have a separate drive. I didn't
I've noticed that
understand
too.
that. I think when you pull in, it's got a little place
If-
that I pull.
One
over
other thing,
that little bit.
Ms. Godwin.
Yes.
If this were to be, the special use permit issued, would you be putting a fence up to segregate like everybody has mentioned, it looks like one big parking lot in the back. Would you be putting a fence up to segregate that area?
I can put a fence at the back. The front will not need a fence.
I was just asking if you had any idea what you wanted to do with it.
I really don't see where I need to put a fence. I've been out there many, many times. I have not seen anyone at his practice. I'm thinking maybe he's not open but a couple of days a week or whatever, because I've been out there on many occasions. I haven't gone that far. If I've had a family in there and I thought it needed to be, I would address it, but at this very moment, I'm not thinking I'm going, go put a fence up. But I can certainly do that at the back too. And if I started the back, which is, that lot's probably 150 feet deep, then I would come up to where the corner of his house is and stop it there. There would be no need to go to the drive because it's not a shared drive.
Any other questions? So one real quick statement, again, I want to remind the applicant and the ones that are here, we did have a public hearing on this at our last meeting, so I will allow just a few more comments, and then I'm going to have to ask for closing the public hearing.
I did talk to Renee, and one of the many things talk about child safety, patient safety, and all that. And yeah, the real estate value would break down from a commercial, as anybody knows, commercial area the value would go down. Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. I mentioned that, and she brought it up. I said, yeah, sure, it would, no question. But it does take money to get into a commercial building. Those buildings are not over and done with. Mine's not for sure, and neither is Dr. Sink's, neither is the Woodall's. none of this was a doctor's office. Prior to that, you got to put a lot of money in there to get it back up to steam for commercial usage. And everybody does, but that is, and that's that's unfortunately part of the deal. And so, no, these buildings are not, like I say, you go in mine, there's been a lot of money put in that place. And that is a shared driveway. Anybody can look and see that's a shared driveway, the front. No matter whether 6 foot one side, 10 foot the other, or 6 foot one way, 7 foot the other, in certain areas, depending where you're at, you cannot get other two vehicles, are not gonna go side by side through there. And my patients have to get in there somehow. And and she may have been there bought this older building for like, in 2017, but I've been there for over 2 decades now dealing with this. And I think maybe the idea is to fix the place up and get it so you can rent it commercial. And
Mayor, I have a
might have got a
question
good deal
for
on it.
the
I don't know what you
speaker.
got. It doesn't matter to me, but I mean, but that is, I'm a little concerned the fact that these buildings are not spent and over and done with. They're not old houses. They've been redone. And there's tons of places behind it. If you look now, in the parking area for that you were showing a while ago, during business times, there's cars. If it's not my office, you've got other offices across the way. You got cars all over the place until you get to the parking lot of the hospital, which is packed with cars. And there's a lot of cars back there. Anybody on a busy day. So I think it's safety, child safety, family safety, and patient safety. I can't get those patients in there.
Mayor Pro Tem, you had a
Mr. Lee, you referred to property values. You disclosed to us that you were a physician. Do you have any experience in real estate or a
Very little.
licensed broker?
Very little.
For the record, we have to go on facts. You've given your opinion.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I mean, I just think it's important you understand that.
Sure.
The other question I have for Mayor, if I so may ask. Sure. It appears that this property has been vacant for some time. Whether it was residential or commercial, it sounds like to me there would be quite a conflict about using the driveway. I just think that we should make the note for that for the record, because the town's having to make a decision based on the applicants that's presented tonight, and the applicant owns the property, and that's all I have to say.
Mr. Dunn, I think you had a question.
I would like to make one other statement. Ms. Godwin, you are actually requesting a special use permit, not a rezoning, correct?
Yes, I think that's correct.
So at any time, if it is a special use permit, you have the option to rent to a commercial person going forward.
Yes, sir.
Also, by being a special use permit, we're allowed to put some restrictions on it should we want to grant this. Would you be willing to, if it was a restriction of this, to put the fence from the rear property line to the rear of the buildings?
Yes, I would. And I want to add one thing. This person is so concerned about children, them being protected, but yet he wants to share that driveway that is not a shared driveway. So if you've listened real close to that, he's conflicting his own statements.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for the council at this time? If not, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. So gentlemen, we do have the findings of fact that we will still need to go through as part of this. They're located on page 178. Again, just like the other ones, we can go through them one at a time, or we can have a motion to approve it. We can add any conditions as if, just like Mr. Dunn mentioned, if you so want to add a condition, it's up to you gentlemen.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that council approve the recommendation, findings of fact 1 through 8, with the recommendations of fence on the property.
And just for clarification, is it a fence at the back of the property, from the back of the property? Is that what you were
I was
referring
wanting
to? or-
Councilman Dunn to amend that motion.
Okay, all right.
I think the fence needs to go from the rear of the property to the rear of the buildings. That would cut through on the flow-through traffic. And if there are any children in the property, it would keep balls from running loose through the parking lot and give them a defined space. So, that is the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, you okay with
Yes,
that?
thank you,
that
Councilman
amendment?
Dunn.
So having a motion to approve,
Findings of fact.
we need to approve the findings of fact first, okay? So why don't we go through the findings of fact, and then we can do a motion whether to approve or deny, and then add your condition. Is that how you would like it, Ms. Clerk? Okay.
We shall move forward with that, considering all at one time for the sake of time.
Okay. All right. So I have a motion to approve findings of fact 1 through 8. I have a motion, I have a second. Motion and a second, all in favor? All opposed? Okay. Motion carries. All right, now I would need a motion to approve or deny the special use permit, and then this is where we can add exactly
I
what
make a
you-
motion to approve supplemental use permit 1905, with the restriction that a fence be placed from the rear property line to the rear of the dwellings.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve with the condition as stated by Councilman Dunn. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, gentlemen. We will move on now to business item number 2. Mr. Manager, that was to discuss the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Business item number 2 is a placeholder that the council.
Mr. Dunn, is that fence to extend along? It's gonna be on the same side of the building as the road, the driveway?
Yes.
Block parking.
It's pretty much the perimeter of the property
To
line.
separate the parking structures. There's
You'll
gonna
have
be
to have a gate, there's gonna be a gate problem. Okay, that's all right. It's not gonna be on the driveway, it's gonna be to the end of the building, to the back.
To the rear of the building.
To the corner of the building,
Yes.
to the rear property line, straight back.
So
That was
technically,
mine.
if there's no issue between y'all two, you can still get to your walkway going up. The ambulance can back in the driveway.
As long as she doesn't.
I'm pretty sure the ambulance drivers can back in off of North Street into the driveway. Yes, ma'am.
So-
Yes, ma'am, I understand that.
Okay, public hearing is closed. This has been decided. All right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, moving along. The budget discussion is placed on here primarily as a placeholder for future budget workshops between now and the next meeting in June. So either we can discuss creating our next meeting, or we can wait and do that towards the end of this meeting. So we do have a closed session, so however the mayor would like to proceed.
Yeah, gentlemen, I know that there are going to be a couple of council members I do know that are going to be out. However, I do know that we have quite a bit more to go on this budget. And it would be my recommendation that we either try to have another meeting this week or have a meeting at least next week. And I know that you're probably going to be out, but we'll just probably have to catch up. If you guys.
What's last to cover in the topics?
The only last thing to cover basically is the fee schedule. Is that correct? As far as actually covering things, it's the fee schedule. But then, there's been a lot added back into the budget. We haven't decided on, tax rate and so forth. We do have the salary study that we need to go through, two other capital requests and so forth. So.
I'm available the 16th.
Question is do you guys want to have a budget session this week, another one this week, or one next week? It's up to you.
The only other day I can do it this week is Wednesday. One person, so. It's tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Yep.
Sorry.
So, you guys want to get together tomorrow night? We could recess this meeting to tomorrow night, or usually.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, no, that's true. We can make up. Yeah. All right, So how about next week? And we don't have to, I'm just asking, right? So it's totally up to you guys, whatever you so choose, or we can wait.
I think the manager made mention that mentioned the 16th. Would that be a budget workshop as well as the presentation?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's the first time I'll be available, Mayor. I'm going on vacation.
Right. For when?
16, you said 16, I canceled it. I got something that I canceled.
That good? Would they, you're back.
Yeah.
Then you guys are back. All right. That good? All right. All right, so we will, what time? The other option is if you wanted to do the fee schedule, you have that information with you, available.
That's fine, whenever you got, works for you guys. If you want to have it before, I won't be able to.
Thursday, 6 o'clock, I don't care, 6 o'clock? Thursday, and the 6.
You can, it's early enough if you want.
Just longer time?
6:30? 6:30 be okay?
Yeah, break for a minute and come back and talk about the fee schedule. All right. Okay. All right, so why don't we plan to recess this meeting until May the 16th at 6:30. All right. The other thing I wanted to ask is, as far as topics go, the only other topic that we have to go over is the fee schedule. If you gentlemen would like, we could take maybe a 5-minute break and let the manager go to his office and grab the fee schedule. And we could go through the fee schedule tonight. That should be a fairly quick thing. Go ahead and at least knock that out so that when we come back on the 16th, we go through the salary study and pick up the loose ends as far as what we want to do with tax rate and the other items that we discussed. Does that sound like something we'd like to do tonight? Go through the fee schedule? All right, why don't we do that, Mr. Manager? Okay. All right, we'll take a 5-minute recess then.